It seems like a normal gaming system, but it's far from it. The Super Mini SN02 preloaded with 800 games looks nearly identical to the original Nintendo SNES.
No, it doesn't. It looks like a cheap emulator of the Super Nintendo, actually the SNES Classic. I mean, the name that you gave, the Super Game SN02, is a dead giveaway. The fact that there's 800 games in this thing is a dead giveaway. The fact that the real SNES Mini is well over $100 on the secondary market at this point in time, and this probably cost you $30, is a dead giveaway. I mean, look at this screen right there. Look at that Luigi, who is over action game instead of platformer. Obviously, if you look at these logos, this little fake Bugs Bunny, something is off immediately.
Even the packaging is nearly a perfect copy, but it's not created by, sold by, or affiliated with Nintendo in any way.
Whoa. Are you telling me the trusted brand and the historic console super classic game amusement system is not affiliated with Nintendo in any way? That's strange. That's very odd. I mean, obviously the actual packaging has the Nintendo seal of approval, and they're going out of their way to not call this a Super Nintendo, but wow, I can't believe that this thing is not affiliated with Nintendo.
It looks exactly like a miniature version of the old Super Nintendo.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, today we have an absolutely amazing, immaculate, and wonderful segment from NBC News. Yes, they decided that they needed to do a deep dive into this, about how pirated knockoff emulators are also kind of unscrupulous. And you could tell already from the jump that these people have no idea what they're talking about. That mom right there who says it looks like a miniature version of the old Super Nintendo doesn't even realize that the thing that was bought for her is meant to be a knockoff of this Super NES Classic, aka the mini Super Nintendo with 80 games. I have one right here. It was gifted to me by a close friend. You can see that this is clearly being meant to rip off this little mini Super Nintendo thing, but she doesn't even know that. She's like, it's like the old Nintendo, but smaller. I don't understand this. Let me go to the national news. By the way, special thank you to those of you who signed up over on my website at actualjusticewarrior.com/join. This one is for you.
Taylor Turley's 5-year-old son was gifted the console for Christmas, and she was ready to share some gaming nostalgia with him.
I was raised in the 90s. A lot of these games are very familiar with me. I honestly wanted to play the game before I gave it to him.
But she quickly realized some of the preloaded games included offensive or racist language and pornographic material, like this image of what appears to be 2 naked children in a tent. The book there labeled porn.
She's very familiar with Nintendo, guys. That's why she didn't even know that the SNES Classic is a thing that exists, and she thinks that this is just meant to be a miniature version of the regular Super Nintendo. But then when she looked, she realized that these games, super questionable. I mean, look at this game where you have naked pixelated children reading a book called porn. Who would have thought the very trusted brand of super classic game amusement system would be so unscrupulous?
And one with a sexually explicit character that looks like Ronald McDonald, along with an email account.
You can only imagine the type of person that's posting their email on pedophilic games.
She says she was also shocked to find a game with racist characters.
There's another game that is supposed to be like Mario 2, I believe. And it's called Black Man 2 once you get into the game, and I don't know how to describe it. It's pretty racist.
So this woman, who is very familiar with Nintendo, and she just wanted to bring that nostalgia to her own son, that's why she received this as a gift, and yes, I'm nitpicking the hell out of her story, went to find a game, and she's very familiar with it, that was similar to Super Mario 2, which is one of the most distinct Mario games because the American version is actually a reskin game of a different Japanese game. And she realized that it was actually Super Black Man 2, and she doesn't even know how to describe it. And I like how the local news, I'm sorry, not local news, NBC News, national news, doesn't even know how to describe this or display this in any way that's not offensive. They just blurred out the whole screen. They're like, you can't see it. It's called Black Man 2. Just imagine how racist it is.
The gaming system, which doesn't list a manufacturer on the box, but says it's made in China, is sold by multiple third parties on major retailers like Walmart or Amazon.
So let's get this straight. The gaming console, which is clearly a knockoff of Nintendo, sells for $33 on Amazon and on Walmart, only through third parties, not through Amazon or through Walmart. And then they actually found this on the street.
And we found it being sold in person at an electronics store in Corona, Queens, displayed right here on a table outside the store, along with what appears to be a knockoff Nintendo Switch.
At this so-called electronics store, which looks like an outdoor flea market, and he's like, wow, we found it in person at this electronics store. I can't believe a system that is cared so little about by the owners of the store that they would just leave it on a table outside next to a knockoff of a Nintendo Switch would actually be this unscrupulous. Holy crap. Call the national news. We found an emulator, and the people who do piracy of Nintendo turn out to not have the same standards as Nintendo.
Here is the loading screen, and we see Luigi here, like a cartoon version of Luigi, very familiar. Looks like a fun game so far. Everything looks pretty normal.
Bro, it doesn't look like a fun game so far. That's the loading screen, and there's a bunch of categories. And again, a 5-year-old could tell you that there was something off about that Luigi, but sure, it looks like a fun game so far. Sure, yeah, whatever, buddy.
But as we kept scrolling, we're deep into the games now. It's 111 is the number of games that we've gotten to get to this screen. And on the same page, we have Mickey Mouse 3, which sounds like a game. Sure, you'd let your kids play that, that's fine. But on the same page, we have one that sounds much more explicit and questionable. And then as we hit play, we were even more shocked. Okay, right off the bat, that's not the Mowgli I remember. It would just be a normal game if it weren't for Mowgli being naked.
Stop it. He's like, it would just be a normal game, but Mowgli's naked. They blurred it across. It's like obviously a Jungle Book knockoff that somebody made on the internet that this Chinese manufacturer just loaded onto the system. And the guy's like playing it and he's talking about it like it's the most serious situation of all time. Again, the national news is involved because somebody made a Jungle Book game where Mowgli's not wearing any clothes, obviously a parody game, and it ended up on this unscrupulous emulator. You don't have to call the national news for this. There's like a war going on in Ukraine. What are you doing?
We've reached out to Disney for comment on this, but have not heard back.
What do you mean you reached out to Disney for comments? We wanted to know if Disney actually officially licensed this game that has Mowgli naked throughout the whole course of the game on the screen. We needed to know if this was an official licensed title by Disney, because for all we know, Disney is definitely licensing its titles to somebody who's pirating and knocking off Nintendo.
I was fuming.
Kyla Knight has been trying to warn other parents about the system on TikTok and tells us she bought it for her kid when it was listed here as a bestseller on Amazon.
My husband went ahead and bought it. It was like, hey, this is only $50. You know, we're going to go ahead and get this.
Imagine being this woman's husband right here. I mean, you can see him as soon as she says, my husband went and bought it. His head goes down. The shame has emerged.
My husband went ahead and bought it. It was like, hey, this is only $50. You know, we're going to go ahead and get this.
And he's going to have to live down the fact that he wanted to buy this thing because it was around $50. And he's like, hey, 800 plus games. I'm sure this will be no big deal. Not only was it a weird Chinese knockoff system of Nintendo, so it had a bunch of off-market games that were attached in, which, by the way, you could just not play. Apparently, it does actually have some legitimate titles and a bunch of them, so you might be able to get your money's worth. But then his wife is making a big stink about it, and the whole point of the story is, hey, look, my husband's an idiot. He tried to spend $50 on this. Isn't he stupid? I'm going to go to the national news to tell you how dumb my husband is.
After Kyla reached out to Amazon, the company told her they were investigating. And in a statement to NBC News, said the product was, quote, investigated and removed.
Oh, it's not worth it. just get a divorce. You don't need to hang your head in shame. You bought a thing for $50 and then you contacted Amazon. They probably gave you your money back, so you ended up getting it for free. Your wife is making far too big of a deal on it. It's not worthy of epic TikTok rants. Calm down. It's okay. When you buy something that's unscrupulous, sometimes there's some unscrupulous things attached to it. When you buy a game that is off market, that is off label, that is pirated, sometimes 821 titles is going to be filled with some ridiculous things included.
And in a statement to NBC News, said the product was, quote, investigated and removed. But as of today, it's now listed on the site by another third-party seller. Wal-mart also telling NBC News the game will be removed because it does not comply with our prohibited products policy. But we found one that appears to be the same system by a third-party seller today.
So this is 100% true. The product, as originally described, was removed by Amazon, and it has been listed by multiple other third parties. And Amazon was actually offering a coupon for $4 off for certain Prime members. So of course, I ordered one of these things, and I might play some of these insane games for you on this channel because, oh my god, what a great story. That is not worthy of national news. This is not a big deal.
The online posts selling the systems do not mention anything about inappropriate content. They even receive some 5-star reviews.
So, Naked Mowgli is throwing boomerangs in this game, and this was something that people over at NBC News not only thought was interesting, but was worthy of a 5-minute segment investigative reporting, a bunch of contacting Amazon, contacting Disney, contacting Nintendo for something obviously not produced by any of those companies to make a big stink about it, shame this man for trying to save some money by spending $50 on this console, let his wife publicly humiliate him, all because some people didn't realize that when you buy an off-market product, you sometimes get what you pay for.
If you go into the descriptions of these consoles, they are marketed to children. They're marketed to give to your friends' children.
However, now Kyla and Taylor joining dozens of other customers, leaving reviews to warn other parents and to get the word out.
So I just want to point out that the local news decided to highlight a review that talks about how there's racist and inappropriate games to try to get the word out, but the review that they highlighted is still a 4-star review. So there's racist and horrible games in here, there's unexpected nudity and inappropriate content, but overall, honestly, you get what you pay for. $30 for this system, 4 out of 5 stars, it still has 800 games, so this person is still a satisfied customer. Amazing that they decided to highlight this review, especially when you actually take the time to read what's in it. I purchased this system for my husband and I to play some throwback games from our childhood. There's a ton of preloaded games. We had a blast playing Super Mario and played for days. After we got a little bored, we stayed looking for some other games to play. There are some inappropriate games here. We stumbled on a couple of games that we question. One was a version of the original Mario Brothers. All of the characters to choose from look to be African American, but then it goes to a screen that says kill whites. When your black personality enters the game, they pick up flaming crosses instead of turnips. And you try to kill the people in white cloaks. I'm assuming that would be the KKK. That's a good assumption to make. It goes on. There's more. Another game we stumbled on was McDonald's. Ronald McDonald's Fame. Ronald McDonald is running around with what appears to be a boner. There's a kid in the tent reading the plot of the story, and on the outside of the book it says porn. Then you start the game, and the houses are shaped like penises, and the kid that is in the game is naked. Pretty disturbing. The console worked for us, as we really only need to play a few games, and we're surprised at the additional content that was added. If you buy this, keep it away from kids so they don't see those things. Again, 4 out of 5 stars. 4 out of 5 star review right here. Because overall, I mean, look, they had a version of Super Mario where you had to fight off the clan, But, you know, we got to play a retro game, so we had fun in other ways. 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely would recommend maybe keep away from your children.
That's all I wanted to do with this whole topic, was just make sure that parents knew what could potentially be on presents that they're buying for their kids.
That's all I wanted to do in this segment, is make a fool of my husband, shame him for daring to pay $50 for this system, because I am the ultimate Karen in the universe. I'm very upset about this. I'm very hurt about this. And oh my God, I can't believe that these unscrupulous, unnamed Chinese manufacturers who deliberately try to trick dumb people into thinking they're buying a Nintendo for $30, even though it clearly costs like $150 right now, would actually have unscrupulous games in their system.
My warning would just be to make sure that you go through the console yourself and test out these games. Even if you're not interested in playing it, just be aware of what your child is taking in all accounts.
Basically, what I want you to do is be an adult and do the basics of parenting and check out what you're buying, especially when you buy something that is from an unscrupulous dealer or this so-called electronics store, which again is just a table on the street notorious for off-market and pirated goods. I mean, I think that's what you really need to do as parents, is not trust this random table seller that's selling this right next to a clear and obvious knockoff of the Nintendo Switch, but maybe that's just me. And again, I had to go to the national news to warn people about this, because how dare we not expect the best of unnamed manufacturers from China who intend on fooling people by knocking off Nintendo.
All right, Stephen Romo joins us now live here on Top Story. So, Stephen, I mean, this is pretty eye-opening, and it's incredible how much it looks like the old Super Nintendo.
Stephen, this is incredibly eye-opening, and it looks, again, so much like a miniature version of the old Super Nintendo. I'll tell you what's eye-opening about this. The fact that the local news doesn't know anything. I'm not a Gamer Station user. I don't play a lot of Game Station, but even I know that it is intended to look like the SNES Mini. However, nobody in this national news segment, NBC News, seems to realize what it's actually knocking off. They just keep referencing the old Super Nintendo because the last time they had any contact with anything related to gaming was the old Super Nintendo. Again, national news segment, and nobody could have corrected this error.
How hard was it to get to the games that were inappropriate? I mean, could any kid find them? And you found things that were even sicker than what we saw in your story, correct?
Yeah, stuff we could not include in the story, definitely on this game. That's one of the weird things about it, though, is if a parent gives this to their child, they might look through it for a while and not find anything. But after scrolling just a few pages down, all of a sudden you see some strange titles that seem racist. The games themselves are actually pretty normal. But then you get to the one like we saw, the Jungle Book version. There is a normal version of the Jungle Book as well. But then, for inexplicable reasons, there's this sexually explicit version in there. And there are some totally good games, some nostalgic games. I played the Star Trek game. It was actually pretty fun for a while. That's why I don't understand the reason that this product would actually have that. It'd be good to get a response from the manufacturer, but there's actually not one listed on the box.
Even this guy's giving it a positive review. He's like, listen, they got the sexually explicit Jungle Book game, and I contacted Disney to find out if they officially licensed this game, that they clearly didn't, because, you know, I work for NBC News and I have nothing better to do with my time. But overall, honestly, I really enjoyed it because they have the non-sexually explicit game and they have a bunch more darker titles. So what I'm saying is that this system, very dangerous, has some very inappropriate content, but I would still recommend it to you and your family. This is NBC News with our top story, which is unscrupulous Chinese manufacturer that is intending to knock off Nintendo is in fact unscrupulous.
So, yeah, some sick puppies out there, and we thank you and the Top Story team for finding this out so we can let parents know.
Just some sick puppies out there. I mean, thank you so much, and the Top Story team, for letting us know about this story, because honestly, parents are just a bunch of dumb idiots and they would never figure this out on their own. Look, I love everything about this story. I love the complete and utter ignorance of NBC News' Top Story team. I love the fact that this wife is so bitter, nasty, and angry that her husband bought this system, that she's shaming him on the national news, and he's not having it. He's filing for divorce in his heart right now before he files for it on paper, and honestly, Godspeed to you, brother. It is not worth it. You don't have to take it. Be a man, stand up for yourself. And I love the fact that it informed me about an affordable system with a bunch of unique games. And yes, I did in fact go and buy this thing off of Amazon, and I will be playing it, and I may report back later. But hey, Those are just my thoughts on this whole segment. I want to know what you guys think. Should we expect more from these unnamed Chinese manufacturers that are intentionally trying to deceive you by knocking off Nintendo products? Or is it kind of a situation where you get what you pay for? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like the video, show by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about this insane NBC News segment. Till next time.